Baking was something of a source of pride for her, but also because Holly desperately needed the money. "Just let me know. Can I get 2 cookies?" Holly took her purchase. Wade would like the sweets, and headed back onto the street just in time. There was a truck pulled up in front of the saloon now, likely waiting for the lunch rush, and as she watched, another pulled up too. A busy day wouldn't be so bad. Hopefully people would be generous with their tips. She doubted it, though. People got stingy during the holidays, which was tough. It was like because they were spending money on presents, everyone else should go without. Considering Holly lived on tips, it wasn't her favorite time of year work-wise. She blanched when a third truck pulled up, because she recognized it and the 2 dogs hanging out in the back of the bed. One was a great big beautiful Belgian Malinois, and the other was a retriever wearing a bright yellow vest with emotional support animal in black lettering along the sides. They both wagged their tails as she walked past, looking for pets. Holly loved animals, but she was not a huge fan of the owner of that truck. Sure enough, 3 guys piled out of the truck, all of them wearing hats. One was Jason Clements, the mayor's lanky husband, and a real nice guy. She liked him as a customer. He tipped well. Then there was Carson, a guy with salt and pepper hair and a grim expression. He worked at Price Ranch, Jason and Sage's ranch, and since most of the guys they hired were ex-military, Holly suspected he'd seen some shit. He was polite, though, which was all she asked. And then there was the driver, Adam. He was tall and gorgeous, dressed in jeans and a puffy vest over his long-sleeved shirt, and wore a worn baseball cap over his dark hair instead of a cowboy hat. Thick slashing brows added to the sardonic look on his face, as if he was always laughing at you, and he had the most perfect mouth, framed by a goatee that made him look dangerous and just a bit dashing. Too bad he was a jerk and a shitty tipper. God, she hated him. Her day had definitely taken a turn for the worse already. That was another one of the problems with small towns. If you hated someone, it was absolutely impossible to avoid them. And she got paid on tips, which meant she had to be nice. So Holly pasted a smile on her face, held the door open for the others to file in, and sucked it up. "Take a seat anywhere, boys. I'll be with you in a jiff." Adam Calhoun did his best to ignore their waitress as he took off his hat and hung it on a peg near the door. It was clear she loathed him and was pretending for the tip. He hated that sort of thing, and it just made him want to stiff her even more. She was so obvious about it, too, her smile fake and sweet as she poured cups of coffee and took orders. She didn't even glance at him as she took his down, just focused on her pad as she wrote. She had plenty of smiles for Carson and Jason, though, which just irked him. It wasn't that he was ugly. Most women thought he was nice-looking. Adam was just vain enough to know that he had a good smile and a decent personality, and that usually let him get the attention of most women he flirted with. Most. Because waitress Holly was probably the prettiest thing in this town, and several others around, and yet she couldn't stand him. He drained his coffee cup while the others ordered, and then held it in the air, a silent request for more. Her eyes flashed with anger momentarily, and it was quickly covered up by that fake smile again. "Be right back." She hustled off, her round bottom shaking with every step. And okay, he was red-blooded male enough to watch. "Now you're just baiting her," Jason commented, sipping his own cup. Maybe he was. There was something about Holly that drove him absolutely up a wall. Maybe it was that she was always all smiles, even when she clearly didn't feel like it. Her clothes were a little tighter than they probably should have been, her festive red sweater practically painted on her lush figure, and her jeans showing off her curves. Her dark brown hair was pulled up into a bouncy long ponytail atop her head and fastened with a big garish Christmas bow. She looked festive and flirty, and it irked him. Maybe it was that the first time he'd come in, she'd flirted up a storm with him, and so he'd tipped well. He'd even come back later that night after thinking about her all afternoon, only to see her flirting with another customer like she'd done with him, and he'd realized it was all for tips. It made him angry, made him feel stupid, so he'd left $1. He'd left $1 ever since, too, just to make a statement. He had $1 sitting in his wallet today, waiting for the opportunity to poke at her again. Holly brought back the coffee, taking his mug with a cool expression and filling it quickly. "Separate checks today, boys?" Jason